8 US states are on land that used to belong to Mexico. Welcome to History Lists. Let's talk about how things used to be south of Texas. The Mayans. These guys thrived in the Yucatan Peninsula for over 1,000 years. The Mayans are known for their advanced knowledge in astronomy and mathematics. They understood the concept of zero centuries before Europeans did, and developed the only fully fleshed out writing system in the pre-Columbian Americas. Their cities were complex, housing schools, libraries, hospitals, and even sport arenas. What makes this all even more impressive is that the Mayans didn't have rivers, lakes, or natural springs to provide the fresh water their people needed. They had to develop an intricate series of channels and chaltuns in order to redirect and store enough rain to keep things going. Weirdly enough though, by the time the Spanish showed up in the New World, they were puzzled to find that many of these great cities had already been abandoned. Even today, we're still not sure what happened, but it seems likely that disease coupled with drought and the abuse of their environment led to their civilization's collapse. Number 2, let's talk about some Aztecs. These people called themselves the Mexica, which is where the country of Mexico would eventually get its name. They built their society on top of chinampas, which are man-made islands held together by roots, stakes, lake sediment, and probably feces. Like the Mayans, they enjoyed developing chocolate, sacrificing humans to their gods, and playing ulama, which was a sport that often ended in injury or death, and was possibly even used to resolve conflicts between states rather than going to war. They ruled over 5 million people in their empire that stretched from coast to coast, and they demanded a lot of tribute. They were not super beloved by all their subjects, and when Cortez rolled in, he was able to turn much of their empire against them. The Aztecs were hit with a civilization-ending triple whammy: famine, smallpox, and being betrayed from the inside. I'm just saying that, sacrificing people a lot might have backfired on them. It's just a possibility. And this paved the way for Spanish colonization. Tenochtitlan was razed to the ground, and built over it was Nueva España's new capital, Mexico City. Since the Tlaxcalans were instrumental in defeating the Aztecs, the Spanish allowed them to keep their indigenous names and some of their traditional forms of government. Other tribes did not fare so well. Eventually, a Catholic priest named Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla called the people of Nueva España to arms for their country's independence, and he was captured and killed. But hey, even that didn't stop Mexico from becoming its own constitutional monarchy in 1821. Time for some revolution. The country began to do pretty well economically under a stable yet super corrupt dictatorship by Porfirio Diaz. Yet the Native Americans who had been assimilated into Mexican society grew increasingly poor and angry, as they were forced to grow cash crops that they couldn't actually eat. The rising middle class were also kind of pissed that their government had become pay to play, and both groups joined together to take the regime down. They established a liberal democracy after overthrowing their dictator, and a wealthy idealist named Francisco Maderno was elected president. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, he was assassinated pretty quickly before he could do anything. Mexican-American War. In the 1840s, U.S. President Polk had his eyes set on some Mexican territory. When they turned his offer down to buy them, he moved troops into the disputed zone between the Rio Grande and the Nueces River. Mexico thought that was less than chill, given our recent annexation of Texas, and they responded by sending in the cavalry and killing about 12 U.S. soldiers. That obviously meant war, and the United States Army proceeded to defeat Mexico along pretty much the same route that Cortez had taken when fighting the Aztecs. And Mexico lost, and they were forced to sell all of their land north of the Rio Grande for $15 million. Whether it's the funny cats that get you through your day, or the marine algae that produces the air that you breathe, let's talk about some of nature's unsung heroes, animals that have changed the course of human history.